put a Queensland jersey on Dan Gagai and he finds a way to score a try.
Cam Munster, he's going to be the one to watch.
He deserves a try!
Even though he's only young, he's such a big name, he's such a promising star.
Well, we've seen plenty of this in Origin. This is one of the best. McCarthy will score! And Queensland celebrates. He smashed. That's a brilliant rugby league try.
Chip chase anyway? No? Something different, mix it up.
Pride is a wonderful thing for a footballer.
G'day and welcome to Queenslander, where this week we're joined by the king of State of Origin himself, Wally Lewis. Origin time, there's always a bit of evasive tactics, skullduggery going on. At the moment, the talk is Cameron Munster could be in doubt with that foot injury. How big of a loss would that be for Queensland?
Enormous, absolutely enormous, Adam. I've got to say that that would be one of the toughest challenges for the Maroons before the series gets underway. Even in their training sessions leading up to game one, getting used to life without him. He's been a very productive part of this team for a number of years now. He bears creative skills that very few people in the game are blessed with. And I've got to say that if we are without him in game one, it certainly is going to add plenty more pressure to the Queensland team. Pressure that isn't really required for game one of a tournament. And
you like him too because he's a bit of a larrikin. He's a bit of an old school footy player that would have fit in your day in the 80s.
Yeah, I like a lot about him. He has got that larrikin about him. You've judged that correctly. I quite like him, and he's one of those guys that I believe that he does this intentionally just to get rid of a little bit of the pressure that is cast upon him. He'll see everybody talking about him, certainly on television, watching us talk about Queensland's best players and being Munster. It's certainly going to have plenty of challenges in front of him. He likes to try and get rid of that, laugh it off, almost release that pressure that he knows is going to be very tough come kick-off. But certainly once that opening whistle goes, he certainly will be feeling plenty of it.
If he doesn't play the series opener at the MCG, who plays six for the Maroons?
I think they've probably got to have a look at the players that are available. I think there's probably three of them. Scott Drinkwater, Corey Norman and Reece Walsh as well. He's a young man that if he's fit and then if he's ready to go, there will be plenty of people questioning that he is old enough. And I think you've heard me say it 100 times, if you're good enough, you are old enough in a match like this, certainly to play in some of the toughest challenges of the game. But
the team is actually named on Sunday night or Monday morning. I'm not quite sure the exact time when it'll be revealed, but who's some surprise players that you may think or would like to see in that Queensland team?
Oh, look, I don't think there can be too many.
Because they blooded so many debutants last year.
Yeah, can't be too many shock players. And I think it really is going to be up to the coach to see who he has a common faith in, and I don't think that's going to be too surprising at all. And I really think that there will be very few shock inclusions in the team for game one. I don't mean it to make it boring, but boy oh boy, it's one of those games that you need to produce the best you possibly can. And often in situations like this, the faith that exists between the players out there in the football field can be the biggest benefit for them.
What about who plays hooker? We definitely need a new number 9. Jake Friend was the starting hooker, the decider last year. Harry Grant was on the bench. Do you go Harry Grant or do you go Reid Marnie, who's been excellent for Parramatta?
Yeah, I think you'll probably be the first one to admit that your ears are ringing with the name of Harry Grant. Yeah. I have been chewing Adam's ears for a long, long time about Harry Grant being in the side. This bloke is as good a footballer as I've seen at this age. He is a wonderfully talented player, has got time, has got space and creates time and space for his intended ball receivers as well. I would be very surprised if he wasn't in there, should that be the case. But either or, certainly I'm sure the coach and teammates would be very happy with.
And you've got Ben Hunt also there who can play a bit of hooker utility role over the years. I want to push the case for Kyle Feldt again. Lockie's not here, so I can't bang on about it. I want to see Kyle Feldt debut for the Maroons at some stage during this year's series. But what about the Blues, Wal? Who worries you? Who are the danger guys to look out for from New South Wales?
Who isn't in the New South Wales team that isn't going to be one of those shock players? I've got to say, though, I'd probably put it down to the three guys that create as much damage in an opposition defence as possible. Cleary has been.
Yeah.
He's been the headline of the NRL all season long. Just seems to be getting better and better every time. Hopefully he'll come up with an injury the week before and do Queensland the right thing.
Or suspended. Everyone seems to be suspended at the moment.
They're a dime a dozen. Cook at number 9, his ability to be able to provide time and space for his intended receivers is fantastic. And Tedesco, if he's fully fit, he is going to create a lot of drama for the opposition defence. So they would be the three players I think that you could mould a team around very comfortably and would be fairly enormous damage to Queensland if they play their best game that night.
And what about the Broncos also? Well, finally we get to talk a bit of positivity around Kevin Walters' men. They had that good win on the weekend, the shock result over the Roosters. The forwards really muscled up. They were very aggressive. Lodge to Vita Pangai. How pleasing was that to see? Yeah,
and Lodge, I've been delighted with his performance. I thought it was fantastic. He seems to have a fair bit of inspiration behind him. To Vita Pangai, he obviously took a personal challenge out onto the field in his performances, and I've been extremely happy with what I've seen for him. But it's a tough game each and every week for the Broncos. But I've got to say that certainly the way that they've done it has got to please the coach. He can see that they're very determined. They've got a will to win. The success hasn't been great for the Broncos, but they certainly have put in to be able to knock over a top team in the competition is certainly one of the biggest challenges, despite the Chooks having a few injuries. But boy, oh boy, I've got to say that they're feeling pretty good at the moment. They need to lead from the front. The big boys up front, we've seen just how productive they can be. The last performance, the best of the year.
And there's talk too that Matt Lodge may be involved in a mid-season transfer down to the Hunter Valley, the Newcastle Knights. Can the Broncos afford to lose a middle forward mid-season, given what's at stake for them, given the fact that Pat Carrigan's already out for the season? Can they afford to lose him?
I've been a bit of a fan of this bloke. Of Lodgy. I think he performs very well. He had plenty of critics early in the season, but I think he is just playing better and better with each game this season. The word that you get is that he's an absolute certainty to head south, and he'll be gone, and it'll be damaging for the Broncos. Brisbane will find another player sometime, someplace to be able to fill in there, but I think we're realising just how good he can be. He just seems to play better each and every week that he goes out there, and a lot of the worst critics of his are certainly turning to be fans later in the season, and no surprise to see that. He really has been impressive.
Another player who's been impressive, you touched on it before, Scott Drinkwater. He's probably the informed Cowboys player at the moment. How much are you liking him? Yeah,
I really do enjoy watching him play. He seems to be one of those guys that, he did have a bit of a question mark in front of him at the beginning of the year, but everything about him in his last few performances has been time and space. He's had plenty of time in looking for his intended receiver, and when he runs with the ball, he looks fairly impressive, and the space that he makes. He's very clever in standing short to the dummy half to make it sure it's a short pass, which makes the defence race up out of the line, or if he needs a little bit more time and space, to just stand back a little bit deeper and give himself that time, and that's usually reserved for the experienced players of the game, but he has come into it quite cleverly.
Yeah, he's also got a very good passing game. Some highlights there, the cutout passes to the winger. I'm going to put you on the spot. While you're coaching the Cowboys next year, Tom Dearden rocks up from the Broncos. Chad Townsend comes up from Cronulla. Who partners Scott Dearden? A combination of the two. Maybe they merge the two. Scott Drinkwater, who do you partner him with next year?
Who are my choices again?
Chad Townsend?
Yeah.
Or Tom Dearden? Chad Townsend experience you think will work well with Drinkwater?
His experience will work well, and that's certainly at the start of the season. And I think you know all too well, I've been chewing your ears about Tommy Dearden. I'm a huge fan of this kid. He's got determination all about him, but I think it's going to take him a little while to adjust in the halves combination. So he'll be back there and need to produce his best to be able to get that starting spot. But I think it's probably something that won't be all that much of a stunning selection early in the season.
And the big signing news down on the Gold Coast of the Titans, AJ Brimson locked in for 5 more years until the end of the 2026 season. How much of a vote of confidence is that in Justin Holbrook when you've got the star player going, 5 more years, I'm here?
Yeah, that really is a direct indication that he would have spoken about, or in his decision-making process. I'm very happy with the coach. I love who he is, and there's obviously a fair bit of admiration that exists between the two. I think he's had an outstanding season, and he's only going to get better with each game he plays. And I don't think the coach has received the full credit that's due. He's pretty clever, and I think he's going to go on to bigger and better things in the next couple of seasons.
They return to their winning ways, albeit a scrappy win over the Bulldogs. Back in the top 8, the Titans. What's the missing piece of the puzzle there, Wal?
Well, I think it's obviously a situation where they've got to change their team around a little bit. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, I hope I got that one right. I really don't see him as being a front rower. I honestly think that he's a lock. Yep, he really is. He's a big, powerful bloke. He runs quite cleverly, and I just think that he may be playing out of position now. I know the coach is certainly entitled and makes that decision every week, and probably thinks that might not be the case. They might be able to fill it in quite comfortably at the moment, but if they can have a couple of big boys up front that dominate the field space and able to get it, I think we're going to see the best out of Tino and his attacking plays back a little bit. He's managed to do that when he was at Melbourne Storm, and it was very impressive. And Craig Bellamy was a huge fan of his and said that it was going to be a huge loss to the Storm, and it would take them quite some time to find a replacement. Well, Bellamy always works a little bit quicker than most, and has managed to almost fill that. But Tino, I think he's going to be pretty good once he goes back a little bit further in the scrum.
So one more middle forward. That's what Wal wants for you Titans fans out there, and then you'll definitely be a finals contender. What about in the halves? Ash Taylor, injury prone, that hip complaint. Is he worth sticking on to, or do you go out in the market and get another half to partner Fogarty?
Well,
that's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah. Ash is. I've liked this kid for a long time. Fogarty, I'm a massive fan of this kid. Ever since I saw him come into first grade, I think that he has enormous potential, enormous. Ash, I think he really has got to improve his game. We've seen him play very well whilst he was in Brisbane and heading down to the coast. There was that suspicion that he was going to become a wonderful footballer overnight. That wasn't the case, so it'll be a long, slow process, I think, and I don't mean that to be insulting, but working with the coach to find out exactly what he wants. We've seen some outstanding halfbacks volunteer to be taught by the coach, and certainly I think this will certainly happen on the Gold Coast.
And how hard is it to, every time we mention Ash Taylor or even Anthony Milford's another example, $1 million man, back page of the paper, $1 million man. We say it in the news, $1 million man. How hard is it when you're the marquee guy? You were the marquee signing at the Broncos, different situation, but how hard is that? You've got that added pressure as well. Yeah,
it is. It's and you do feel that pressure, and it's not just from the coach. You believe that you have to perform for your teammates as well. They're the very important ones. You never want to let them down, and also your fans. But he has been judged to be a player worth that much money, so there is that suspicion every week of that if he doesn't make it, then he's going to feel that there will be some disappointment sprayed his way by the coach and the players. It is a tough challenge to do that each and every week, but if you're getting that sort of money, you certainly deserve it.
And slightly more than your first ever Broncos contract. Can you remember your first Broncos contract? Because How much?
Yeah,
roughly?
It was $125,000, I think it was.
You were the Origin captain and the Australian captain when you got recruited?
Yeah, and it was about 125 grand. And I thought I was the richest bloke in Brisbane. So it was one of those contracts I felt pretty happy about. But, I also had to then answer to Wayne Bennett, and it became quite obvious that Wayne
needed more money to answer to Wayne Bennett than that.
I like that.
No
That's
comment?
A good line. Yeah. Yes, I had to answer to him, and it was the situation where I probably felt that it was. a wonderful challenge each and every week, but at the end of it, Bennett did not believe that I was performing to the standard which he expected each and every week, and we parted ways. But I've got to say that if you are the highest paid player in your club, then certainly that is the case. You're going to have to perform week after week to not just please the coach, not just please the supporters, but in particular the teammates that you're playing alongside. If you're getting bigger bucks than they are and they're performing much better than you, well, the question's going to be put to you sooner rather than later.
Yeah, very well said. Well, thanks for your time. Always love listening to your old stories. Massive weekend of rugby league coming up on Wide World of Sports and Channel 9 as we move towards naming our State of Origin teams for that series opener down at the MCG.